Here we are looking at what I call the 3 pillars of evolutionary relating. And this is actually, these are the 3 things, I don't have a better word, I was mentioning earlier. Actually, I don't call this a method. I don't even call this like a special way of relating and you could choose another one. Like, sure, you can choose another one and can leave one pillar away, but then your relationship won't function. So I actually feel like it's not something you can decide on or leave away. It's something that makes relationships work. That's as simple as that. What makes it an evolutionary relationship, we will come to that later already.
So you're saying that these are already present in all relationships?
No, they are. They unfortunately aren't present. They are present in functioning relationships.
Ah,
that's the thing. And like I was mentioning earlier, while investigating what would I and what would my clients have needed in this and that situation, it always boiled down to this. So let's look at that. Like there are 3 pillars carrying a roof, and we need all 3 of them. Otherwise, the roof won't stay there. It will break down sooner or later. You can maybe balance it, but if you touch it and just one little feather like comes on it, it will break down. So to have it solid, you need all of these 3 pillars, but not 15 or whatever. It's just those 3. So it's actually quite simple. And we talked into the first one actually already. And Ida, you mentioned so nice the self-responsibility I was pointing on, and the awareness that together can be called like needs orientation. I need to be needs orientated in a relationship. And it's all about me and my needs first. But this means like everyone involved in the relationship. So the first pillar is a lot about what do I need? What history maybe of relational trauma do I bring? What are my triggers? What are my wants? What are my desires? What are my ideas of how relationships should look like? All of this, what I bring as a preset which is on my side, that I bring in connection when I relate with you. And here the awareness and always deepening awareness about what I bring is important. And as I mentioned earlier, the self-responsibility to not just take it as it is and look for someone that fits to my preset, but rather see is that what I bring actually something you could relate with, or is there some work to do on my side, and how can we find it, and whatever. Yeah. So this is what the first pillar makes very sustainable. It's looking at actually what you bring and what you want and what you need. This is the needs orientation. The second pillar,
the first pillar is also where nervous system awareness comes in, that we just talked about, because any unmet need, either from the past or in the present, shows up as an activation in our nervous system, right?
Right, yeah. Actually, our nervous system is activated when our needs not met. That's wonderfully said, Ida. Yeah. We always often think of needs and our nervous system, but actually they're connected. I feel good, I'm happy when my needs are met. And when they're not met, my nervous system kicks in and has ideas and patterns and strategies to fulfill my needs again. But often it's not about my primary needs, but coping secondary needs. So a little bit of awareness about that is necessary to understand why do I actually act how I act. And we could go deeper there, but I actually for time time concerns, I want to keep it there.
So second pillar. What does this beautiful word mean?
Benevolence. That's what I just learned. I always pronounced it French, and that's not right. Benevolence means I approach you with the idea that you don't want to harm me. And there is a curiosity involved. Benevolence is the opposite of playing victim-perpetrator games and blaming and shaming. So I'm oriented towards you and I want to make it work. So when the first pillar is about me, the second pillar is actually about how I approach you. And their interest is important, and acceptance that you might have needs and triggers that I don't have, or needs that bring up fear in me or make me feel uncomfortable, but then not going into blaming and shaming and telling you your needs are wrong, but rather staying interested and saying like, okay, wow, this is hard for me actually, but tell me, how is it for you? So this genuine interest in how the other is, which we all had in the beginning of our relationships, everyone had that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in relationship. But then we, over the time, lose it because actually it's quite uncomfortable to relate with you. You should be different. And the benevolence takes the you should be different out. So the second pillar is about that. It's about what's my preset of how I engage you. And to make this work, actually, we need a third pillar, and that's all. That's the transparency. And transparency doesn't mean like I don't lie or I tell you the truth if you ask. Transparency means you can actually see through me. Everything that concerns you, and actually, I would say that's mostly everything, if you relate with me, I have to make transparent. Because how can you approach me with acceptance and benevolence when you know and feel that I'm hiding stuff from you? So transparency means I show up, I show myself, and you do the same. And when we do that, this is communication. And communication is not just verbal communication. Communication means everything. We cannot not communicate. That's the funny thing. Even if I look away and ignore you, that's communicating a lot. So coming home and asking your partner, how was your day? And your partner says like, oh, as always, whatever. Yeah, that's communicating something. That's communicating you don't want to tell me about you. I'm not important for you. You don't share your inner world with me. And I interpret that if I want it or not. And then it kills the benevolence. So we need communication and some form of intimacy. And with intimacy, I don't only mean sexual intimacy. That's also a wonderful form of communication, but it's not the only one. Intimacy means I show myself vulnerable and personal. So if we bring these three pillars together, we actually have the first one that's about me and getting awareness and responsibility for myself. The second pillar, how I engage you and behave when not everything runs smooth and maybe your needs create fears in me. And to make this work, we have the action pillar, that's pillar 3, where we go into action, where we communicate, where we deal with each other, where we talk, where we relate, where we co-regulate our nervous system. And then it makes all together, they mingle up and carry this wonderful roof I call an evolutionary relationship. And actually, these three pillars would carry any relationship, but what makes it evolutionary is that I can have focus on creating more and more and deeper exploring of my needs and create an awareness there. So I allow my needs to change, because that's actually happening anyhow. We just don't want that. We are ever-changing beings. And allowing that and inviting that through interacting with these three pillars makes a relationship so strong, connected, that it holds development, changing needs, flexibility, and whatever might come from inside or outside.
Yeah, give some examples. What happens when one pillar is not there? Like, say that there's a couple where one person just realizes that I want to take this amazing job in a different city, and up until that point everything's been good in the relationship, and because have their everyday life and everything worked, but then all of a sudden this challenge comes in of, wow, okay, that might mean either we move or we need to break up, or you live somewhere else half of the time, or yeah. So what would happen in a situation like that?
Yeah, that's a good example, Ida. Yeah. Well, actually, if you take one pillar out, and we would start with the first pillar, in this example you bring, you wouldn't even realize that you actually would want to take this other job and move into the different city, because you don't allow yourself to orientate on your ever-changing needs. You have settled with your family for 10 years, you have your jobs, you had your ideas of career and business, and now there's this idea coming in and someone saying, hey, I have this job offer, but it would mean you moving. And you just say, no, we stay here, I have family. And that's the thing. So you're not orientating. And maybe you could ask yourself like, maybe I should have done that. Or after a while, you blame your partner that you didn't do that or couldn't do that, because you had to sacrifice yourself for the kids and couldn't do your career or whatever would come up. But this would be possible situations if you don't focus on needs orientation. Yeah. So, but taking your example further and saying like, okay, I actually want to take this job, and I actually think we can make this work. And we take the benevolence out. That would mean being needs orientated and being transparent and owning that I want to take this job, or I want to make this decision. And actually, this is so important for me, I don't care how it is about you. And if you come across my ideas, I will argument them down. And I will tell you you're wrong, and no, we could make it work, and it's just not working because you are too narrow-minded and whatever, and go into blaming and shaming. So I would be needs orientated. Yes, I want to take this job. I think we can make it work. I may maybe even be right there and have a really good idea how to make it work. And I share that transparently, but I don't bring the other one in the boat. I say like, I want to do that and I don't care how it is for you, literally. And taking the third pillar out and putting the second in, it's like, okay, I want to take this job. And that's actually a hard one, because I don't share this transparently towards you. So I would come into some split. I would talk to my boss, maybe saying like, oh yeah, I want to do this, and I'm bringing this, and maybe look for apartments and stuff in the new city. But I cannot talk about it transparently, and this is endangering my benevolence. So to to keep the benevolence, I have to hide my actual needs. And this creates a split in me. And with the example you gave, with moving into a different city, that's something like getting pregnant. It's like on or off. Yeah, this is like something very, very clear. So sooner or later it will show. If I go for my needs, and then we will have a fight because the benevolence then breaks away because I move away and you never knew I wanted to do that. Or we land in our first example where the needs orientation isn't met. I actually want to go, but I fear the benevolence will be taken away, so I neglect my need again. But taking that on something that is more out of everyday life, we all know that. We all so often have situations where we feel our needs quite clear, but don't talk about them transparently to keep the benevolence. That's what's called harmony seeker or people pleaser or things like that.
Conflict avoider.
Conflict avoider, harmony, yeah. And there you see, this doesn't work at all. Relationships don't work if you don't put in these three factors. And I wouldn't call it a method, actually. I would call it a paradigm. It's creating an awareness for how do I actually want to relate with you? Yeah.
And I just want to add something that I love about this paradigm, or this way of looking at relating, is that we don't have to have it all figured out. We don't have to have the solution before we go into connection with the other, but that the solution can actually show up only when these things are already in place, when we are in connection, when we speak and are aware of our needs, and when we share them with each other in connection and are actually interested about how the other is impacted. That's actually where the solution can start emerge and show up, in that tension of not knowing, right? I might not know how can this work out practically, but I can only get there once I have these three things there. And I think that's a big mind shift that comes with this paradigm that I want to highlight, because it's a game changer for sure.
Yeah. I'm just realizing I could talk about that for hours, but that's a very, very significant point, Ida, you're highlighting there. It's not about finding a solution when we have a disagreement or disharmony. It's about coming into connection, and from there our creativity sets in to find the solution built on connection. But we often come from I need to feel harmony to feel connected to you. And that's actually not true. It works differently.